Hello and welcome back to the X-Files Revisited. We are on to episode 7 of season 4, which is Musings of a Cigarette Smoking Man. Ryan, is this a big episode in the legacy of the X-Files?
Yeah, I think it is in regards to fandom. How much of it we can actually count as being truth within the realm of the X Files, I don't know, because, like I said at the end of last episode, I'm not sure I did get to say it actually. I think I cut myself off. I don't know, but just the fact that everything we're given in this episode comes from research that Frohickey's done.
Yeah.
And given that Cancer Man is already onto him, we don't know how reliable that research is, because this could be a lot of stuff that Cancer Man has fed Frohickey's way in order to muddy the waters, so to speak. So who knows? You can take this episode as complete fantasy, I think, and you can also take it as gospel truth. If you look at Cancer Man in this, he could be sat there when he's listening to Frohickey and thinking, this is quite funny, this is quite amusing, the fact that they've swallowed this pill. Or he could be sat there thinking, oh crap, they know too much. So, yeah. So when you say legacy, in regards to the overall story, I'm not really sure it means a right lot, but with regards to how the fans perceive it and like it, you care to take a stab at where you think this fits on IMDb?
Yeah. I'm going to go for 23.
23. Okay. I can tell you have underestimated how much the IMDb X-Files fans like this episode. Out of the 217 episodes, this is ranked at number 7.
Wow. Oh, that's high.
Yes, that is very high, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, shall we just jump straight into it?
Let's do it. Okay, so we open up, as I just kind of talked about, Cancer Man surveils the lone gunman. Basically, we open up on Cancer Man arriving at a seedy-looking, rundown room in some building somewhere, dimly lit, and he's setting up his business, surveillance gear, and then he sets up a rifle, and he takes aim. We see who it is he's aiming at, and it's Frohickey. And then we go to the opening credits.
Yeah. And you're kind of curious as what's going on almost instantly, or I was. You know, the gunman, the sign that actually says the lone gunman on it, which was kind of funny. I just like that. I don't know why. It was so hilarious to me. And the fact that he's just there. I think having the cigarette smoking man back again is one of those characters, whenever he appears, there's an instant mysterious nature to him. You're like, oh, something's going on. Something's brought his attention to it. So I was really curious straight away.
Yeah, something big's going to go down. If he's there, then something big is happening. But, so it lends weight, I think, to whatever's being talked about. So yeah. So we get past the opening credits, and then Cancer Man listens in as Frohickey gives some history about him. So yeah, we can clearly hear that Mulder is there. The rest of the lone gunmen are there. Frohickey's brought them there to basically tell them what he's found out about our cigarette smoking friend. And it takes us to a flashback as Frohickey's talking. So we go to 1962, Fort Bragg, and we see Cancer Man, a young Cancer Man, before he was smoking, and a young Bill Mulder, Mulder's dad. So these two apparently were buddies in the military, and Bill Mulder has a picture of Fox, who's just been just been brought into the world, and apparently his first word was JFK, which is quite amusing.
Yeah,
because is that a thing? Go on.
We're introduced to him reading the book, aren't we? Like, he's reading the book and he talks about movies for a second, and I believe that this is a thread that runs through the full episode. And to boil it down, it's storytelling. You know, whether it be it's books that are constantly there, it's movies that are constantly there. There's people talking about them. They're all talking about storytelling, fabrications in the act of this whole episode, which I really kind of like, because
you've got Cancer Man trying to write a story.
Yeah, we've got him writing a story, looking to be published. Later on, the stories change that he wrote, how stories evolve and are manipulated by different people. And I think it's just a really nice thread that runs through this episode, where it's all about making up stories, changing the stories. Nothing's the truth.
Which feeds into that whole idea that you can take everything in this episode as gospel, or you can just think this is a complete load of baloney. Cancer Man knows it, and it's just the job's done. So
I love the fact that Frohike has all this information, but still doesn't know his name. He's just Cancer Man. Like, he's got all these things he knows about him. Like even a pseudonym later on for his nom de plume. For his book he's writing. He knows that, but he doesn't know his actual name.
Yeah, like even that to me suggests that all of this is stuff that has been fed by Cancer Man to him in various ways. So, like, I know that there are some contradictions in this episode with regards to timeline, with regards to relationships. You know, if you look at certain things that are revealed later in the series, it makes things in this not make sense, which kind of rubs people the wrong way. But I always fall back on that notion that, I don't think this episode is meant to be taken as gospel truth. No. It's an episode about lies. It's an episode about conspiracy, about stories, as you say, misinformation. So I think it's quite fun in many ways. It does give us a peek into Cancer Man as a person.
Well, I think it's a fabricated look. Well, it also gives you an idea of Frohike and how the conspiracy theorists can be swept up with their own storytelling abilities, and run away with something that's ludicrous, which we'll get to some ludicrous things later on.
Absolutely. So, cracking. So Cancer Man goes to a meeting with a general and some other shadowy figures who tell him that there is a need for a small number of men to take it upon themselves to cut through all the bureaucracy and get certain things done in order to save the world. Like killing JFK. Now, I gotta say, I love this scene. I really love this scene. I ended up watching this scene a couple of times because I was actually doing a little bit of a test thing, because I was watching it on different formats to see how the aspect ratio changed, because I know it's gone to Disney Plus and they've got the proper widescreen kind of version, and when I went to Blu-ray it went to widescreen, and like obviously when I was growing up watching it I always watched it on full screen on the 4:3. So I was just interested, and I ended up using this sequence just to get some snapshots. But as a result of doing that, I ended up watching the sequence multiple times, and in doing that, in watching it multiple times, it just suddenly dawned on me how well put together this sequence is. Like, it's really long. It's a good 5-minute long sequence, and it's just people in a room talking. There's no action. It's all things people say that sound like one thing but actually mean something else, and they're trying to communicate to Cancer Man before he's even Cancer Man certain ideas without fully committing the words to those ideas. No, again, it's all subterfuge, it's all misdirection, it's all like, what are we really saying? Read between the lines, kind of thing. And I just think it's really well put together. It's really well written. It's really well directed. It's really well acted, and it's actually quite nicely shot. It's just, yeah. Any thoughts on this scene?
No, I think you've said it all, Brian. It's a fantastically well put together scene. Great, just keeps that mystery going. It feels like, again, Frohickey, the kind of conversations he imagines these people having. It's nobody speaks straight. It's all subterfuge and underhanded comments, and it's just. I personally, I believe most of this is a load of crap. It's been told. It's entertaining and incredibly fun, but I don't buy an instance of it. Yeah, we're going to bring this guy in, and the first job we'll give him is to get assassinated JFK.
Yeah. That's where I come down on it. To be honest, I feel like too many X-Files fans take this episode too seriously. They take it to go. So I don't come down on that side. I come away from this and I think, well, that was a nice fairy tale, but it is just that. So Mr. Hunt meets Lee Harvey Oswald, another Space Above and Beyond alumni. So again, this is another Glenn Morgan, James Wong episode. They basically front load the first season, so they did Home, or they were responsible for the writing on Home. They did, which was the other one? Basically, The Field Where I Died, which we didn't like, with Kristen Cloak, and then this one, which again, like I said, they said they'd come back and do it on the proviso that with each episode they did, they could bring one of their Space Above and Beyond cast in. So this guy, I can't remember his name, the actor, but he was like the main character in Space Above and Beyond, and here he plays Lee Harvey Oswald and does a pretty good job of it, I think. So there's a lot of talk about curtain rods, and Lee Harvey Oswald hands him the cigarettes. So this is coming off the back of, I think in the previous scene, I'm pretty sure he was offered a cigarette and turned it down and said he doesn't smoke.
Yep.
And then here, Lee Harvey Oswald, obviously he's been given the curtain rods. and then he just hands him these cigarettes. So yeah, Lee hides the curtain rods at his place of work, and his boss almost discovers him. So
yeah,
my thing is, because obviously Oswald is being set up here as a patsy.
Yeah. Which they actually used that word several times.
Yeah.
We need a patsy.
And it's just like, so he's handed these curtain rods, and it's just like, what do you think this guy thinks these things are at this point?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you think he thinks these really are curtain rods? Or do you,
I don't think the guy thought anything, because I don't think any of it's real. So I think it's just it's fitting in within narrative.
Within the story that we're being presented within the internal logic of whatever facts Frohickey has found. What's I'm trying to work out what the why is this guy not opening this package and seeing what's in it? Why is he hiding them in his place of work? Why is he looking dodgy? It's
one of those things. If you're telling a tale, that's something that catches you up. So you're just like, that's inconsequential. Just we'll leave that anyway. You just kind of moved on. I just feel like it's because it's so made up and false that nobody's going to give you a bag of something. You're just going to be like, okay, I'll keep that. Yeah.
Well, he's clearly being paid to keep this thing. He clearly thinks it's a bit suspect because he's quite nervous when his boss shows up. So one can only assume that obviously by the time it gets used to set him up, he's past the point of realizing. He realizes too late, basically. But I don't know. It just this would be a red flag for me. You know, if I'm Mulder, I'm sat there listening to this story that Frohick is just throwing at me, I wouldn't be sitting there just listening and go, oh, yeah. I mean, if I was Mulder, I probably would. But okay, if I was Scully, I would be like, okay, so why did he just leave the curtain rods there? Did he even believe they were curtain rods? Or did he know there was something suspect but just ignored it deep down in his soul until it was too late? So, yeah, there's all those questions that I have regarding the curtain rods. And I never think that it's quite cleared up satisfactorily. But so we've got the day of the president's motorcade, and Cancerman assassinates him. That's right, he is the second gunman on the grassy knoll. So Lee suddenly realises he's being set up, gets a gun, goes on the run. He's pulled over by a cop, and he shoots the cop dead because he's basically he's really paranoid at this point. He knows he's been set up. He doesn't know who's after him. He doesn't know if the cops are in on it. So when this cop gets out of the car, like, he literally begs him to get back in. Like, he doesn't come across. Like, he doesn't come across as he never comes across as someone who's just like violently deranged and wants to kill people. You get the sense here that he doesn't know who to trust. He feels threatened, and as a result, he ends up shooting this cop. Yeah, he gets arrested at a movie theatre where Cancerman lights up his first cigarette. Yeah. Thoughts?
Many. Look, why did they both end up in the same cinema? Why does a non-smoker suddenly decide that this is the place and the time where I want to have a cigarette for the first time? And it's nothing to do with the actual plot or the story, because
I think it is. I think it is. Absolutely. No, I think the Cancerman lighting up thing is clearly to show how he's burying his guilt. He's burying his, because this is a very clean cut guy who is actually quite patriotic, and he doesn't smoke. Doesn't seem to like smoke or drink or have any vices or anything like that. You know, he doesn't go to the movies. He's just all about his job, and you know, one would think that he has quite a solid moral compass. You know, even the stuff he's done at this point, he's doing because he believes it's for the betterment of his country. It's to save his country. And I feel like in this moment, once the deed is done and there's no going back, you either languish in guilt and shame because of that guilt, or you do the only thing any sensible person can do and turn to drugs. It's just like, so he lights up his first fag. And I feel like that is a brilliant way of showing how Cancerman, in that moment, buries the guilt and moves on, and how he functions. It shows us that his constant smoking, is a coping mechanism. It started as a coping mechanism, and it is maintained itself as a coping mechanism throughout his whole life, which is why he basically chain smokes now, because he's gotten to the point.
He doesn't even have that like first abrasive cough after taking his initial draw of the cigarette. You know, that thing where it almost burn the lungs or something. Yeah. Wait up.
People do this seriously.
It's a good sequence. It's fun. It's that kind of shows you like he's watching. He's always there. He's one kind of step ahead of everybody else, knowing that that's where he's going to end up. Because you know he's not there to watch a movie because he doesn't like movies.
No, but wasn't he supposed to meet him there?
Well, was he? Maybe I missed that.
Yeah, I'm sure when he hands him the curtain rods, he tells him to meet him at the theatre. I'm pretty sure that's what happens, because That's how Cancerman knows where to send the cops, because that's part of the setup.
Yeah.
Because
if you're so paranoid and you're not trusting anybody, why would you go to meet the guy that gave you the
Well, that's what I mean. The whole thing just raises questions,
Yeah.
which is why it's just like, yeah.
But I think it's supposed to do that. It's supposed to have hold this story because it's not true.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that was part one. Now we get part two, because this is in like three chapters. And for this one, we go black and white.
Yep, I like it.
Yeah. So we're just playing with a bit of aesthetics. So Cancerman writes his novel while Martin Luther King gives a speech on the radio. Everything's going fine. He's just there doing his novel, and if you're not listening, you miss something. I did when I first watched this, because you got Martin Luther on in the background. Part of my brain just kind of goes, "Oh yeah, that's Martin Luther doing what Martin Luther does," and Cancerman doing his own thing. And it's only when Martin Luther says a specific thing that
he turns and says, "Why did you say that?"
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, why did you say that?" Oh, and it's like he knows that this is now something he's going to have to deal with, because it's going to stir stuff up that needs to be stamped down before it becomes a thing. So, so basically, Luther implies that communism is a response to the Western world's current way of thinking. So Cancerman asks, why did you have to do that? Because obviously that feeds into the notion that communism might actually get people thinking that communism is something that, well, not so much that communism is something that you should buy into, but that the Western world's policies are something that you shouldn't buy into. Yeah. So in a shadowy meeting between Cancerman, Cancerman says that they have to kill King. He says he will be the one to do it because he has too much respect for the man.
Oh, it's so much fun. It's just, I like him so much. I want to be the one to kill him.
There is a sense there of you always say that, like, if you're so tough, why don't you do it yourself? Or if you believe in it so much, why don't you do it yourself? And there is a sense of that here, I think.
Again, that's Frohickey for you.
Yeah.
Because I fully believe that there's no way he's getting his hands dirty if he's in part to do with any of this. He's going to be there'll be several steps and several people between his decision and the active shooter. It's just
but this is supposed to be Cancerman in his youth. It's like you don't become the personification of evil overnight. It's a slow, steady journey, and I think we are. What this is attempting to do in these three sections is show us that steady journey towards true evil. Yeah, I think the problem comes with part three, where they still try to hold on to a bit of his humanity.
My favourite part about this scene is, I shall kill the man. Merry Christmas, everyone. It's so fantastic. It's just,
oh man,
I loved it.
Why is that a detail that Frohickey would have as well?
Yeah,
it's which kind of begs the question: is some of this Frohickey stuff, or is some of this meant to be perceived as Cancerman's memories?
I'm pretty sure clandestine groups plotting murder and control of the Western world aren't really giving out gifts to each other, like little trinkets.
Merry Christmas, guys! Merry Christmas! Yeah. Merry Christmas!
Come to my family and spend the Christmas period. It's like every Christmas movie or TV show where you've got a Scrooge character where they try to redeem him. Come, you can have Christmas dinner and see Tiny Tim and
I think more what it's trying to show here, I think, is just the fact that to these guys, this is just another day at work. Like, they're killing presidents and people who led monumental movements, but to them it's just a day at the office. And I think by having this kind of mundane, almost taking the piss like scene in which Cancerman gives out these Christmas presents, it is just essentially saying that to these guys this is just their 9 to 5. But it is mildly amusing. So the Cancerman goes to hear King speak at a church, but he doesn't go inside. So again, this is meant to highlight that he truly does respect this man and he regrets what he's about to do. But Cancerman waits in a motel for his roommate. Big yawn. Who's a dude from Enterprise. I don't know if you ever saw the Star Trek TV show Enterprise.
No, not particularly.
So this guy was the I think he was the engineer in Enterprise. I've never seen him in anything else, so I'd forgot. If you'd have asked me was he in X-Files, I'd have said no, I don't think so. So when he popped up here on this viewing, I was like, blimey! I didn't realise that character was the dude from Enterprise, but clearly you don't know who I'm talking about, so we'll move on. Basically, this guy may as well have a neon sign over him that just says Patsy. Cancerman sends him out to a movie, so this is clearly his thing. So I think this was the link. So I don't think it's that he told Lee Harvey Oswald to meet him at the cinema. I think I made the link because here he tells this guy to meet him at the cinema. So clearly that's his MO. It's like all these patsies seem to get caught in cinemas. So that's
Frohickey projecting an MO on the situation.
Yes, I think he's seen that a couple of patsies were caught at cinemas. So maybe that's the MO of whoever it was that set them up. Send them to a cinema so we know where they're going, and then send the police there. So, so that's why I made the link that that's why he was at the cinema. He sends him out to a movie with a couple of $100. Have a couple of $100, go and see a movie. I ain't going to cinema. You give me a couple of $100, I ain't going to cinema. I'm going to HMV and buying a bunch of movies. So he tells him to leave the car as he'll need it later, and then he takes out a gun. Woo! So we get the assassination. That isn't me yawning at this episode. I've had a bit of a rough night, guys. Sorry. Going straight to bed after this. We get the assassination of Martin Luther. And then Cancerman receives a rejection letter for his novel before reciting Bobby Kennedy's quotation along with him on the TV, which is, "In our worst sorrow comes the greatest wisdom through the awful grace of God." I can't remember what relevance I had with that, but I wrote that down for a reason. I know that while I was watching it, I kind of thought, oh, that was a good moment for this particular reason. I should write my reasons down rather than just the moments. But I think it just because I think it's that I feel that if Cancerman's novel was picked up, obviously it gets rejected because they say it's too unbelievable, it's too far-fetched, which is quite laughable in the context of Cancerman in this scene, because he is the guy who's done all these things, so to him it's not far-fetched. And yet saying it's far-fetched is almost like a red flag to the fact that Frohickey is the one telling this story. And yes, this is far-fetched. If you believe this, you're an idiot. So, but within the context of the story that is being told, I feel like if Cancerman's novel hadn't been rejected, he'd give up this life of and become a novelist.
If he'd actually even written a novel, it's just because there's a moment later on in part 3 where we'll get to it, but it feels like they're constantly trying to force him into typical redemption stories. You know, at first, they say almost Christmas Carol, like come and spend Christmas with us moment. And this one where like if only his novel had been published, he'd retire and resign and go and live a life of an author. It's just bollocks.
It's just I did like the thing with the TV. I have no clue why. I think it. Yeah, because there was the quote. What? So he gets his rejection. This is like his biggest kind of disappointment in life. Like deep down, he's a struggling novelist. He wants to be a novelist. He wants to tell stories. We saw at the beginning when he was with Bill Mulder that he's a reader. He loves reading, and he thinks that's where intelligence should be put within writing the great American novel or whatever. And it's like so that quote, just as he's been gut punched by being rejected, we get the quote that in our worst sorrow, which is where he is now, comes the greatest wisdom through the awful grace of God. And it is that sense that this almost cements his purpose. It's almost this. It's like this moment is the moment that has cemented his purpose. Like the awful wisdom of knowing that he is doing what he should be doing. He's doing what he was put essentially on this planet to do. That revelation comes in that moment of rejection, of being told you ain't a novelist, give it up. Because that's not your purpose. So I think that's why I like that quote and that scene. I thought it was well handled. Like I said, like you say, it's all nonsense. It's bollocks because I don't believe any of this happened. But within the context of the story Frohickey is telling, I liked it. So old cancer man can't light his cigarette, which I thought was just a really. They needed a bridge. So they couldn't just go straight from this flashback to the next flashback, which takes place later. They needed to bridge that gap. And it's like, we don't want to fill it with some nonsensical scene in which somebody's talking just for the sake of it. So we're literally just going to have this rather amusing moment that bridges the gap that takes place in the present where Cancer Man is in that dodgy room and he's just there struggling to light his cigarette. I just thought it was really funny and a really great bridge sequence, which movies and TV shows should do more of instead of filling those gaps with pointless scenes that go on far too long than they need to. But so then we're straight into part 3, where Cancer Man is wearing patches, nicotine patches. So this is like early 90s kind of thing, late 80s, early 90s.
Love the ones in the neck, Just,
It's like, I feel like if he took his shirt off, he's just got them everywhere. So it's a boardroom meeting just after that spooky kid managed to reopen the X-Files. So this is early 90s. You get a reference to Mulder there. Cancer Man and his cronies controlling the direction of America, and this is where Christmas presents come. So this is where the ties are handed out. So it's just before he kind of gets involved with the whole Mulder X-Files kind of dynamic. Although presumably, if you look at everything else in the X-Files, he had his eye on Mulder a long time before this. So hands out the Christmas presents, which we've talked about. He passes Mulder's office on his way home, which is just like he was there all along, like, even though we know that. But so he reads another rejection letter before starting a new novel, about a man who has made sacrifices but would love a second chance. Then Deep Throat calls. It's just like, it is that, like you say, it's the redemption story. It's like, if this story were to be believed, which it isn't, but if it were, we're supposed to believe that, like, he wants a way out. He's looking for a way out, and it's never provided. And it's almost like fate is telling him that this is your purpose, and it's cementing this belief that what he's doing for no other reason than that it's what he's here to do. It's his purpose in life. It seems like everything in his life is telling him that's the case. Like, you can draw correlations here with Hitler in many ways, because there's a lot of stuff to do with Hitler about how his anger was really flared up when he became a failed artist, and he blamed the institutions, and then he looked for someone to blame who ran those institutions, and that's kind of, I believe, where he got the Jewish connection. He decided, there's a lot of Jews who are owning businesses, so I blame them. And it all boils down to this kind of, you're a failed artist at the end of the day. Move on, dude. Stop. But he needed purpose so much that, he used that as an excuse. But so he goes to see Deep Throat, and this is a sequence that I can buy has truth in it, because we've already had reference to it in the episode EBE. So if you remember the episode EBE, we are told by Deep Throat that he has executed an alien. And the setup, remember Mulder gets there, he wants to see inside that plastic room kind of thing, and Deep Throat's like trying to talk him down, and when he gets there, there's no alien there, but then they have a conversation in which Deep Throat confesses that, as part of his job, he drew the short straw, and he had to execute an alien that had crash landed.
Is that information being relayed by Mulder too? They were involved with that. Did they not say that something had landed there? I can't remember that episode too great. EB. Were the gunmen involved in that episode?
The gunmen were that was actually the first episode in which the gunmen were involved. So that was their introduction.
So they have knowledge of that situation. So he could have shoehorned that into his story, Frohaki.
Well, absolutely, absolutely. So like Cancerman might not have even been there. Yeah. It could have had nothing to do with Cancerman, but Frohick is like, I know Deep Throat killed an alien because Mulder, you told me. Well, I can tell you Cancerman was there. And it was a toy cost between the two of them.
And then they've taken things like, I drew the short straw and had to clear out the alien. And then they've literally done that with a coin.
Flipped a coin. So I think a lot of fans will look at that and go, well, we've seen that reference, so it must be true. And it's like, no, it's not. Not necessarily, because we know that Frohickey knows certain things, and is every good reason to believe that he would incorporate into that story. So it doesn't prove anything. So they flip a coin to decide which one will kill the EBE after having a chat about the sacrifices they've made without any fanfare. Deep Throat loses the toss, and then they say, tonight we have a new enemy. Assuming that, so Scully gets assigned to the X-Files, and Canterman can't help but smile when he hears Mulder say, I was under the impression you were here sent to spy on me. You were sent here to spy on me. So,
Yeah, what I like about the Scully sequence is it's a sequence we've seen before in the first episode. Only in this sequence, she's obviously very nervous and doesn't. She's kind of moving about. Just the way she looks is a little bit more nervous than she actually was in that sequence where she was more curious about her job. And it just feels as if somebody's interpretation of what that sequence was like.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I think I took her to be very nervous when she's with the two guys who are telling her what her new job is going to be.
Right. Oh, right. Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm like thinking back to the first episode, and I'm like, she wasn't like that.
Yeah. Okay. So
like half truths.
Yeah, which is what this episode is about, essentially, is that stories, whatever story is being told about whatever facts are available to us, at the end of the day, it's how trustworthy is any story? Like any news story, you can say, oh, BBC news story, they got the facts. Did they? It's still subjective. It's still being told through somebody's subjective kind of interpretation of those facts. So
whose facts?
Whose facts? Whose facts? And when you present those facts, we, as the listener, we even have our own interpretation of those facts as they're being presented to us. So that's really what the episode is all about, is just that notion of there is no truth, essentially, when it comes to stories in that regard. So we can never truly know what happened. So Canterman gets an acceptance letter for his latest novel, Second Chance. It's such a... Oh, man. It's like the kind of title that would be like a movie of the week on
Lifetime
Hallmark
movie.
Hallmark or something like that. But so it's to be published in Romana Clef. So then he types up a resignation letter, screws up his cigs, throws them in a bin.
But the letters simply take this as my resignation. That's just one line.
Yeah. Please accept. Yeah. Take this as my resignation. Okay. Given everything you've done and everything you've been a part of, this ain't the kind of business that you just resign from. Anyone who's seen any 1970s political thriller knows this ain't the kind of business that you just resign from and walk away scot-free. It's like the moment you resign, that's it. An assassin is coming for your ass.
Yep.
You are in it till the end. Period. So he goes to the newsstand, and the look on his face, basically, have you ever seen that Kevin Sorbo gif when he's like, disappointment? Basically, that's what I saw in my mind's eye when I saw his face.
He flicks through the magazine, doesn't even have a chance to read it, and just goes, "They've changed the ending." Just like, they've changed the ending. And I'm like, you're still a published writer. That's a good step.
I think it's not so much the changing of the ending that's the issue here. I think the issue is that he didn't quite realise what Romana Clef was, which is basically a Playboy style magazine. It's like he got accepted by something that then published his story kind of episodically in one of those cheap kind of saucy magazines. So it's like, so he goes straight back to the Morleys, buys a pack of Morleys.
He goes straight to Skid Row, Brian.
Skid Row. Oh man, how funny would it have been if the guy that was on the bench sat next to him was that same guy from Jersey Devil?
It's literally like a amateur dramatics portrayal of a down and out, isn't it? You just scratch yourself off and eat really like obnoxiously. Yeah,
pretty much.
And then it's the whole life is like a box of chocolates.
So at this point, they are literally telling you, the audience, look, if you're buying any of this, you're an idiot. We are referencing Forrest Gump here.
A man who went through and altered the course of human history by interacting with various people. It was all nonsense, people.
Yeah, it's Forrest Gump. So he gives his box of chocolates speech. Life is like a box of chocolates.
It's great.
But instead he puts a negative spin on it, which is like that everyone is a hard toffee centre that no one likes, and they leave, and you're left with a box of hard toffee centres that nobody wants.
I think he says in a fleeting comment, he's like, every now and again you hit a peanut butter cup, but it's gone too soon. Fantastic.
So he leaves, and the tramp kind of just picks up what's left of the box of chocolates, and starts reading the Romana Clef.
Yep.
So we go from there to back to the sniper position that Cancerman is in, and he basically says, "I can kill you at any time I please, but not today." And then he kind of puts the trigger back, packs down the rifle, and off he goes. There we go.
So basically, is any of this true whatsoever? Is Cancerman looking over Frohickey? Is he not killing him because he's so wide of the mark that he doesn't even pose a threat, so there's no need to kill him? Is he even there? Is it Frohickey's opinion that Cancerman is everywhere, like the bogeyman? He's always watching, he's always listening. Is any of this actually happened whatsoever? Or is it a fever dream of a man who's passed out? Like, it's such a weird thing.
Like Frohickey's just off his face, isn't he? Yeah. He's on the couch somewhere. All of this is in his head. It could very well be, and that's but that's the beauty of the episode.
Yeah, like I'm just expecting, like, just after the credits, like one of the other gunmen just give him a nudge, and he's like half dozed with drool running down his chin. Just like, huh?
So I just had the weirdest dream, man. but yeah. Like, that is the beauty of this episode, is that you can take as much of it as you want as either the gospel truth about Cancerman or absolute bollocks. I and you, clearly, as we've established, we err on the side of bollocks. It's nonsense. The more I watch it, I'm not even inclined to believe that Cancerman is sat there with a gun looking down on the lone gunmen. I just think this is all the paranoia of Frohickey, saying that he could very well be there watching them at any moment. So it's a really fun episode because of that. Yeah. I think that individual scenes are really well written and well directed, and other than like the stuff with the curtain poles and why would it just raises too many questions. It's not the most thoroughly laid out conspiracy because there's too many questions, but then again, that's conspiracies for you. But it's just highly entertaining. I give it a 4.5 out of 5.
Right, I'm going to go 5 out of 5 on this one. Just again, on pure entertainment. It doesn't affect the X-Files in any way, shape, or form. It's incredibly playful, I think. Lots of dark humour in there, or just silly moments. I think it takes certain facts and just constructs a story around them, even though nothing is connected. They just make it connected. It's highly entertaining. I would happily watch this often. You know, if I was picking an X-Files episode to watch, I'd throw this one on because it's just fun and entertaining. It's a fairy tale, but a good one at that. Yeah,
absolutely.
I like this one.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about, is it Tunguska?
Tunguska. So, Tunguska is it's the first part of a two-parter.
Oh,
it's a mythology episode.
Right.
We get Krychek back.
Ooh.
There's a lot of Russian involvement. We get the oil slick alien coming back.
Nice.
It's a good one from what I remember. I like. Obviously, things could change when we're looking deeply into it, but I always remember it being one that I put on quite regularly back in my X-Files heyday. But I'll be interesting to see what you think. So Tunguska is a place in Russia,
right.
and there's a very famous landmark there in which a meteorite actually hit Russia. I thought that was just something they made up for the X-Files, but when I dig deep into it, I found out no, it's a meteorite actually hit Russia at some point in the last 100-200 years, but caused some considerable damage. But so they've jumped on that, piggybacked on it, and thought, "Ooh, how can we use this for the X-Files?" So there you go.
Good, interesting. Two-parters always get me because they just do. I'm looking forward to checking it out. And
in a good way or a bad way?
Yeah, in a good way, because I'm always like, I finish the episode and then I'm just like,
I want to get back to yeah.
So it's popped in my head. Thanks to everyone who's watching on YouTube or listening to it on the podcasts. But talking about this episode has reminded me of Jersey Devil episode from season 1, Brian, with the Skid Row comment. I think if you haven't heard that episode, you should go back and listen to it. It's one that I'm really proud of, and I think is really funny. You think you're the same, Brian, aren't you?
It's for me and Graham. It's the one it's our go-to as a listen. Unfortunately, we weren't recording video back then, so it's just an audio. But there's a certain point. Well, if you're an X-Files fan and you know the episode Jersey Devil, the bit where it gets to Mulder sleeping on the streets and the tramp shows him the picture, just go and listen to that bit, because from then on it's just like, if you want to see a man or hear a man break down in tears from just sheer laughter, for me it's a highlight of everything we've done.
That was good. So check that out if you get the chance. As always, thanks for watching and listening, and we will see you next week for Tunguska.